Ladies and gentlemen, we are now here to induct the fourth member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. And our guest is as good as anybody's that we're ever going to be having here to induct in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. It was over 20 years ago that our guest, soon to be the fourth member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, had a vision to change Shelbyville backyard wrestling. But not only did he change Shelbyville backyard wrestling, not only did he change Midwest backyard wrestling, he also changed backyard, underground, semi-pro, and I would even dare say professional wrestling as we speak. As the man who created XCW, which we have long said here on Sportswire Radio throughout this year, has been the gold standard in this sport. XCW just completed its 20th season here. We are now getting ready for the off season, but there is no off season in XCW because if you saw what Encounters episode 1 and what you're going to see in a little while for episode 2, I promise you, encounters throughout this off season you are not going to want to miss. Our guest has done it all, also as a performer, winning 29 championships in his career, including 9 times as the XCW World Champion, 1 time as the EBW World Champion. He also won the CBW World title 1 time. He was also 9 times a tag team champion in XCW, 8 times an international champion, 3 times an extreme champion. He was also 1 time a New Age champion, 2 time a European champion. He was 2005's XCW Hall of Famer, but now he gets to take his rightful place alongside the man who he finally buried the hatchet with after nearly 20 years last week as the 4th member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame in Justin Parsley. This man needs no further introduction, but because he's now a Hall of Famer, he must get that Hall of Fame-like introduction. But before we do that, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you now the 4th member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, the owner and founder of XCW, a man that has earned this endorsement and earned this induction, Mr. AKA Fletch, Joshua Fletcher. So with that, without further ado, here on the Sports Report, number 1 global sports show, the 4th member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, the founder and owner of XCW, Joshua Fletcher, a.k.a. Fletch. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that this gets better and better every time.
I felt like there was more pressure each and every time. I felt like with this one especially, because I had Parsley Ceremony. Now, this is the 4th one I've done. I had RPDs, which was certainly, he liked it. I had Dean Allmark, a living legend who certainly, defeated Bryan Danielson, Jushin Thunder Liger. Then we had Justin's, and then we had yours, because obviously you were frankly the godfather of this scene. You have done more than anybody I think will ever do. I've continued to say, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't see what we see in Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Maryland, you name a place, Wisconsin, Iowa even. I mean, if it really wasn't for you, none of these companies would exist. And that's why I really wanted to put as much effort in. I think I stumbled on a word or two, but then again, considering how long that was with no notes, no teleprompter, no nothing, I think I did okay, long as you think I did okay.
Yeah.
Well, certainly, congratulations. And I want to talk to you a lot about XCW. I want to get into that. But obviously, what does it mean to you now to be the fourth member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame?
I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't think that other than the XCW Hall of Fame, I would be in another Hall of Fame. So having the opportunity to be in another Hall of Fame that I, you know, never thought was possible, it's crazy, and to be in here with Justin, who by some crazy miracle we've come together after all these years and created the magic that we're creating now. So cool that it's me and him, and it's all for this guy right here.
Yep.
um
Yep.
he was such a big part of, you know me even getting into this business the way that I did. So it's crazy to think that I get to be a part of a Hall of Fame with guys that's beaten Houston Thunder Liger. That's mind blowing. So
RPD was on SmackDown, I think, about 5 months ago, and he wrestled Anthony Ogogo, and he's the first ever British boxing champion turned major British wrestling world champion. He's the first one, but I think you deserve it because of everything that you did for this sport, everything that you did. Again, and I don't want to continue to stress this, and I say it all the time. You guys have long been the gold standard, not just because of the product, but also the graphics, the editing, the behind the scenes footage we get to see, everything that's put out there. I always say it, and I sincerely mean this from the bottom of my heart. XCW is like WWE because you have 24-hour round the clock coverage every week. XCW, listen, we're in the off season and we still have encounters. I mean, we have so much to talk about here with XCW and encounters. I mean, they're really, to me, this is one, again, I say it all the time about this company especially. I know we're going to have comments. I know people are going to come in here, but this is definitely one that it's not given. This was earned. This was earned the minute that you said, Tom Bryce, I want Sportswire Radio to work with XCW. That's the moment to me that you earned being in the Hall of Fame. So, in fact, I'll even go further. You're more Hall of Fame worthy than anybody I'm going to have that's in the Hall of Fame or that's going to be in the Hall of Fame, really because of your vision. Because, again, I'm going to say it. That company in Iowa that you worked with, that company in Tennessee that goes out there and says they're the best, that company in Maryland, like you, Fletch, started from humble beginnings and now is basically pretty much a semi-pro to leaning pro company. The companies in Michigan that you've worked with, the companies in Georgia, Alabama, all these different places. This backyard wrestling nexus gets talked about. All of those companies would not exist if it wasn't for your vision and seeing what XCW has become.
well, I appreciate that. I mean, I think everybody had their own motives for starting their own company, and I know some of those guys are not. They don't watch our product, or they don't know of our product. And I'll admit that when you have as much content and as much going on as I do in regards of XCW, it's hard for me to really branch out and see everybody else's content. So I mean, I'm not obviously familiar with a lot of the content that's out there. So
I don't
um,
blame you. Listen, I don't blame you in all those different companies, whether it's, again, in Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa, certainly, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Maryland, Connecticut now even. You don't need to be, because they wouldn't exist if it wasn't for you, for what you did in laying the foundation, quote unquote, the seeds, the groundwork from what XCW is, the editing, the matches, the content, the commentary. It really, they all owe a sign of gratitude. They should be a sign of solidarity. In fact, I'm even going to go, if I'm going to go further, if you don't mind me saying, and we were going to talk a lot about XCW in a second. I think if it's up to me as the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station, and your voice of all wrestling, the Reverend Tom Bryce, every single wrestling Hall of Fame, every single backyard wrestling Nexus Hall of Fame, and these other companies out there, when the day that they decide that they have a Hall of Fame, you should be in all of those Hall of Fames, similar to how Major League Baseball retired the number of Jackie Robinson because of what Jackie Robinson had done for the sport of Major League Baseball by breaking the color barrier. What you did for this sport, what you did for so many different companies out there, and I cannot stress this enough again, when it comes to Michigan, when it comes to Georgia, Alabama, Iowa, when it comes to Wisconsin, Connecticut, Maryland, you're all out there. You all come onto Sportswire. you should all recognize Fletch and what he has done for this sport, and you make your own Hall of Fame and that Backyard Wrestling Nexus Hall of Fame. You need to induct this man because what he did for this sport, to me, is very similar to the likes. Again, not the same with the color barrier, but what Jackie Robinson, the way he is recognized by Major League Baseball. That's my opinion only.
And going off of talking about all these companies from different areas of the world, that was what I know we're going to get into it, but that was really my way of giving back to a lot of those companies is creating the show Encounters. Encounters made it where XCW, XCWs can some, say that XCW is in its own little bubble. And a lot of that is because, you have rosters from all over the world that, there's maybe 8, 9, 10 man rosters, and XCW is this big conglomerate 25, 30 person roster. And so we don't get the opportunity to work with a lot of the outside companies, a lot of the different companies all over the country.
Well, you don't need to. You do not need to, by the way, because of
Right.
what you have in your product. This is the gold standard. They have to come here. The big boys, when they want to come and show their worth, they're coming to XCW. So it's really you don't have to do anything. You owe nothing to those companies. They should be coming to you.
Well, I kind of have to thank a little bit in part to Jackson Law to kind of open in the barrier of being able to work with a lot of these outside companies. I had the opportunity to go to Tennessee and work UWA, create all these different relationships with, the IMF guys, the Foundation, the Midwest Express. I had the opportunity to meet Jake Howell from UWA, Aaron Blaze from Pennsylvania.
Aaron's become a staple in XCW. He's become one of the leading emerging talents in this company. I mean, Aaron is. You even have a documentary out there. I mean, Aaron's really become one of a solid talent here in this company.
So yeah, like I said, Encounters was our way of a lot of guys wanted to work with us. I know some of the guys from Detroit and ROEW and IMF all wanted to have a little bit of piece of the pie in return, in terms of working with some of our talent. And so I wanted to create an opportunity for talent from all over the world to come in and work with XCW. And that's kind of how Encounters was born. And tonight is the premiere for episode 2 of Encounters. And there's 12 plus weeks of content coming up with Encounters. And I think that people are going to be really shocked to see who pops up and what kind of what comes out of these shows, because everybody was on their A game. Everybody from tonight's episode features Jack Delta going one-on-one with Eric Mason in the main event. And
that's a dream match. Listen, Jack Delta back in XCW. I mean, against Eric Mason, the New Age champion. We've had Eric Mason on here. I mean, Eric Mason right now, I think, and we know he's going for obviously the 7 defenses to obviously get himself that shot at the international title. Eric Mason, I've said this here before on many Sportswire shows, and I'm sure people can go back and go watch the footage. I think Eric Mason, almost in any other company, is a world champion right now.
Yeah, and that's one thing about XCW is it is a little more difficult to get to the top of the brass, to grab the brass ring in the company, because there are so many guys to go through. And when you have guys like Brady Branson and Brogan O'Shea and Corey Lee and James Cerebral, Tommy Merriman, on and on and on, when you have that type of talent, it's harder to get to the top. And that's not a knock on, any of the other companies. It's just, when you have a 25-man roster and you got a talent like Eric Mason.
And we were on a show here, and I think, I don't know if it was with Eric, it was Julian Void Jacobs. When Julian Void Jacobs on here, we actually ran down the roster, and I would say of the 30 guys we have on this roster, I think at least half of them in any promotion, whether it's in Wisconsin, whether it's in Iowa, whether it's in Michigan, whether it's in Tennessee, certainly, whether it's in Alabama, wherever it might be, Maryland even, half the roster would be world champions in those companies, hands down.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have an amazingly talented roster, and they're getting better and they're growing even more. Having guys like Tommy Merriman and Leon Lux. And then, of course, you haven't seen him yet in Encounters, but we had a gentleman by the name of Richard Regal. He's an independent wrestler out of Illinois. With guys like that, continuing to work with XCW and continue to help these guys own their craft, man, it's just sky's the limit on what the talent and on the XW roster can do. And I know Richard Regal reached out to a few of the other traveling talents and is wanting to do some work with them and stuff. So I feel like in a way, like, of course, Richard Regal and I had just met, but I mean, for him to reach out to some of these traveling talents of the JXs and the Jack Deltas of the world and is willing to give them even more additional training, like, I'm helping out those guys just by they would have never met if it wasn't for the connection that they had with XCW. So it's really special to me that a lot of guys are getting to own their craft and really get out there because of the opportunities that the XCW's brand gave them. So it's been a really good time to be a member of this roster and even in a working relationship with the XCW roster. And a lot of the guys right now, we're you know looking to work with a lot of guys. We've been working closely with some of the ROEW guys, as we said, and IMF guys, and there's even some guys from Tennessee that I've been in talks with
Ooh.
about coming out here
Mm.
very, very soon.
That company in Tennessee, obviously, but I think what it shows you is that in XCW, the fact that independent wrestlers want to come here, I think shows that this is a product that you can trust. As I continue to say it, this is the gold standard because you look at everything that this company has to offer in terms of the programming, in terms of the editing, in terms of what you can do in XCW to hone your craft. This is why I think the big boys come here and play in XCW. So if you're anywhere else, if you haven't made it in XCW, you haven't made it anywhere else. And I think when we see independent wrestlers that want to be here, I think it shows as to why we need to all support XCW in a number of different ways because that helps us continue to grow this product, which I continue to say is the gold standard. I'll say it till I'm long dead in the grave. XCW Shelbyville, XC Wrestling 1 on Twitter, XCW All Access on YouTube, where you can watch past, present, and footage of behind the scenes on your favorite shows. Instagram, XCW_Shelbyville. Facebook, XCW Shelbyville. And if you want to support XCW any way possible, whether it's merchandise, whether it's finding out on your who's who of favorite wrestlers or knowing out more, xcwrestling1.wixsite.com/Shelbyville. Support this company. I cannot stress enough. There are pro wrestling companies that don't have what XCW has to offer. And that's why we're here with the fourth member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. And I'm proud about this one because this was definitely one that was earned. And it was earned the minute that this man messaged me originally about 8 months ago. And I didn't take up his offer then, but I took it offer a few months later. And that was Mr. Joshua Fletch, the man behind Fletch. And he said, how can we get onto Sportswire Radio? And that was the moment I said, the one day I was waiting for the right moment that I would start a Hall of Fame. This would be the man that I would induct. So we certainly want to thank Fletch for everything he's done for us. And yes, our friends in the IMF who had a fantastically successful show. We're going to get to them very shortly. And of course, Omen Black, the boogeyman of the Midwest, who I think has possession of those tag team championships. And I think we're going to talk about them very soon. And I definitely know who this is. This is one of our champions, or might be one of our champions, in another company, quote unquote, that's battling with XCW. Says, congrats from your man, and we know this man, we love this man, and what an honor it was that we think we know this man. Speaking of the third member who was inducted last week into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, Mr. Parsley is himself one half of the open and closed parentheses, the tag team champions, the first real wrestlers. Love that Kurt Acid shirt. Loved that guy so much. We all did. Love you too, Fletch. Mad props on the induction. It's beyond deserved. Okay, I have to ask this. Jacoby and Justin Parsley have this match in the JWF, and Justin's getting a beat down, and you save Justin Parsley. If I would have asked you this when you came on the first time, about almost 5 months ago, you would have said, Tom, you're nuts. You might say I'm nuts anyway to begin with. But to the fact that we had this moment, that embrace, that almost, I guess, everything in the past is finally closed, Talk about that surreal moment where I think you and Justin Parsley kind of maybe buried the hatchet on screen. Just talk about that moment for the audience.
Um, I guess maybe being able to bury the hatchet on the screen started being able to bury the hatchet behind the screen. Um, you know, in 2022, after Kurt Acid had passed, and Justin came in, I'm sure that he was, skeptical on, coming into this big crazy territory of wrestling, that he hasn't been a part of in decades, and I was nervous to have him because I didn't know how the relationship was going to go. I was hoping for good things, and luckily that's how it went. Fast forward a year and a half later, here we are, almost 2024, and I've told Justin this recently. Like, I don't use the term blessed. I'm just not really the religious. I don't
Our
really use
first lady, our first lady of Sportswire Radio, Miss Dina, would really appreciate that because she keeps reminding me of the same thing. So no, we know that we are spiritual. Maybe spiritual is the right word for all of us.
Yeah, so it's just not really in my terminology. So, but I'll tell you, blessed to have Justin and have Rob and have, some of the guys that I grew up doing this with, the guys that, you know, have always been a 10-minute drive from me, and we always haven't seen eye to eye, and we, you know, didn't have any love lost for so many years, and then to be able to be together and create the magic and do what we do now, it's so special. I wouldn't take it back for the world. If Justin were to leave, or Rob were to leave XCW tomorrow, I would, I honestly would be devastated. And and I take it to heart. It hurts every time that I lose a member of anybody in the XCW roster, because we're all such a close, tight knit family. Um, and I guess some people have their opinions, that come and go through the rosters, and there are bad times for sure. But this everybody that's on the roster is special to me in their own way, and so to have Justin and Rob back in the family, in the fold, has been amazing. As for Jacoby, you
And
know
he, by the way, at the viewer's choice, I think he almost stole the show despite Brady Branson. It was the Brady Branson show with Jacoby's I guess the way he took. I mean, I don't think anybody expected that, or maybe they did. I mean, I don't know, but Jacoby, I want no part of him right now because I might fear Jacoby right now more than anybody in EBW.
I know a lot of people are like, what are we doing, this 10-year-old kid in here?
No, watch him in the ring. Watch him in this ring. I tell you, if you aren't out there, you aren't watching the JWF, Jacoby is not your average 10-year-old. Let me just put
No,
it that way.
no. So being able to, this all started just by him getting in the, we put up our smaller ring and in our garage over the winter, when we're off, and Jacoby would get out there almost daily and just bump and roll around and hit ropes, and you know myself and Chris Jones and a lot of the guys, Brady, we all get in there and slam him around and kind of teach him the right way to do things. And at 10 years old, he shouldn't be able to go in there and do the things that he's doing. And he, as a gift basically from Chris Jones, Jacoby got the opportunity to wrestle Chris, and we filmed it. We had ACT as a referee, and
Yep,
it was
I remember that.
supposed to be a little one-off thing. And and then we're like, oh well, it's got 1.5K views, and he did a great job. Well, let's try another one. And then we went on, and he's wrestling Brogan O'Shea,
Corey Lay has been
and
in
then
there
it
with
just
him.
grew and grew and grew, and then it turned into, well, let's create some stories, let's have some fun with this, and we had the crazy heel turn, and Justin won a battle royal, a through the rope battle
Yep.
royal, which he got to even perform with his own kids, and which I know was a really special moment for him, and I'm happy that I was able to give him that opportunity to perform with his kids as well. And he won the battle royal to go against Jacoby, and we had to get mine and Jacoby's rivalry out of the way first, and then circled back to Justin and Jacoby. And it just so happened that Justin and I had our match. We had our go at SummerMania, and then here's Jacoby doing the beatdown on Justin, and it just made the most sense for me to come out and make the save because, of course, things between myself and Jacoby are far from over. So.
Oh, we know. And you got some other people that I'm going to talk about the Viewers' Choice Awards that I think are certainly not done with you. And again, certainly we're going to look forward to a lot more JWF coverage here. And also, I want to get our friends in from Ohio DKW, and they want to say congratulations, and they hope to work with you guys when they were a part of the Winter Class show, which the IMF put on. Obviously, Jackson was a part of that, obviously representing XCW. So we definitely would love to see that, obviously, with Ohio and Indiana not being that far away. And the DKW guys have just been phenomenal. They go everywhere. I've seen them in different places, and I think that we'll see more of that in the future. So congratulations on that for those guys. And obviously, the IMF we'll talk about in a little while. So let's talk about, obviously, some other things. Speaking about Justin Parsley, I had asked Justin about I guess, maybe going to the border where we ended the season, where we ended the XCW season officially, was where you basically had told Venom that he was no longer going to be needed for his duties as general manager. Now, you have said that you're going to go to the board of directors, even though you can't in a position to reinstate him, but you want to go into at least lobby to the board of directors for maybe to bring him back and reinstate him. And I think Justin has said this correctly, and a lot of guys on the XCW roster that have come. I mean, Brogan O'Shea might have been the most vocal here on this platform. Certainly, Corey Lee had his issues with him from a different standpoint. Obviously, we heard from Chris Jones what he thought on Venom, but I think Brogan O'Shea was certainly the most vocal on it. But Venom seems to be a shell of himself. And the fact that we are dealing right now with EBW, in a way, having, I think, a little bit back to some of the momentum that they have here. I mean, talk to me about Venom and him obviously being removed for now as general manager, and why you may go to the board of directors to try to reinstate him when he does not look like the Venom we all once knew and love in XCW.
Well, obviously, we don't get to see Venom in the ring as often as we used to. Obviously, his continued struggle with his personal stuff. His weight is a big factor in that. Um, just looking for a role for him to continue to be involved with XCW because we all love Venom.
Absolutely.
And also, I mean, selfishly, it's our one last piece of the Kaufman family is to keep Venom on the roster. But when you have people who are just outright irate that this EBW invasion's going on, and Venom's struggling, in regards of like
He
being
doesn't
able
have
to.
order. I mean, the fact that EBW, I mean, listen, I mean, we've got Hayden Vex now who's got the crack at ACT. I mean, we've seen James Cerebral still has got gold. And, we're going to get to Miano Diaz in a second, but I mean, EBW is running roughshod over XCW. And I think that that's been kind of the big talk in the locker room right now, is that the XCW, even the guys that have been with XCW in this fight, feel like Venom hasn't done his job. Even Parsley and Slater, I mean, they're the XCW tag team champions, and they don't really seem like they have the confidence in Venom, and they don't really seem to be rallying the charge or wanting to get in on this fight. And I think that's a big concern right now. And that's really been the big topic of discussion, at least here, because as you know, Fletch, we have XCW coverage pretty much almost every week or every other week, and that's been a big topic by the XCW guys that come in here.
Yeah, and I mean, it also just goes to show, I mean, look at the chaos and everything that was going on, playing out on screen each and every week on XCW TV while he was the general manager. And then look at the controlled chaos that's been going on Encounters post Venom. So, it definitely speaks to, the level of, him as a leader, and him as the administrator of the brand.
He's lost confidence in the locker room. What do they always say in sports, right? If you don't have the confidence of the locker room, your job, whether you're the coach or the general manager, you know this better than anybody. You are obviously the godfather of this sport, of this scene. There is none of these companies without you. You know it better than anybody. You're a visionary. You're a visionary the same way that Vincent Kennedy McMahon was back when he started WrestleMania. The fact of the matter is that he doesn't have the confidence of his locker room. And 9 times out of 10, that means you're going to be on the hot seat and you're eventually going to get a pink slip.
Pretty much what it came down to.
Well, we're going to certainly find out. But, speaking of EBW, and he came into our conversation last week with Mr. Parsley, and he's a man that, certainly he had a couple physical digs at you, literally. And that's another member of EBW. And you probably heard of him, Miano Diaz. I mean, at one time, Miano Diaz was the former EBW champion. He was the breakout star of the year in XCW. And something tells me here that, you and Miano Diaz, we're going to be seeing a little bit of in that ring in 2024, especially after what we saw at Viewers' Choice Awards last week. And how you feeling about Miano Diaz right now?
So, situation with Miano, I mean, I understand that he's a young superstar. He's trying to make a name for himself, and he's doing that. I mean, he did a great job as the EBW champion. I'll give him that. He really put his name out there. I think, where Miano Diaz has been in XCW for a couple years, and I feel like he's always been, a fan favorite. And successful in a lot of
he's
the
had
things
some
that he's done.
success. Absolutely. Yeah. He definitely had some success. No question. Tag titles. He's definitely won some gold here for sure.
Yeah. But he needed to get over that hump. He needed to get to the next step. And I feel like I'll give him credit, since becoming a member of EBW, he's really come into his own, and he's created a new fire for himself, and he's made himself a top guy. He's on everybody's lips right now. And, I know that at Viewers' Choice Awards, he was, pretty aggravated, and went up there and he, said his thing about how, EBW was going to take over. EBW should have had an EBW champion of the year, and it was easily him. So on and so forth. Of course, I didn't take that lightly after all the hard work and dedication that it takes to put in on a show like Viewers' Choice Awards. To have some snot-nosed kid punk come up there and try to ruin it doesn't work for me. But I'll tell you this, January 1st, 2024, before we even get to Cold Day in Hell,
we got New Year's Nemesis.
I'm going to have Miano Diaz on my returning Peep show. So, so we're gonna find out all the details at New Year's Nemesis. I want to find out why he's in EBW. I want to find out why he ditched the mask. I want to know why he's become this coward that he is, and we'll find that all out January 1st.
And we're on XCW platforms such as YouTube, where if you go at XCW Shelbyville, you can hit that subscribe button. You can see XCW footage from past, present, and future 20 years worth. XCW All Access. Go to XCW_Shelbyville on Instagram, Twitter, XC Wrestling 1, Facebook, XC Shelbyville, and also XCWrestling1.wixsite.com/Shelbyville. You have heard it here first. He returns with the Peep Show on New Year's Day. Most people are hungover. Most people are just, depressed. It's the start of the year. It's a long year, and they're looking at maybe now they're going to see their 401ks dropping, 10, 15%. They're just feeling like, well, okay, now it's a long year ahead, and the holidays are over. Nope, not with Fletch. Fletch is going to have Miano Diaz, the former EBW champion, on his returning Peep Show. I mean, New Year's Nemesis. I mean, it's going to be a big day at XCW. This is why XCW, listen, there's no off seasons. There's no days off in XCW. I mean, Fletch literally works. Listen, Vince McMahon, he gave up WWE. He sold the company. So the fact of the matter, there's only one Vince McMahon right now, and that's Fletch himself. So that shows you that this is why we're going to tune into XCW nonstop. I always have it in my TV in the background. It's always XCW. It's whatever it might be from All Access, from Shelbyville. That's why Fletch and XCW are the gold standard. And Miano Diaz, he gives you, I guess, some hand clapping. Rather interesting emoji there. I would have thought we would have had something else from the rising EBW star there. I guess I would have thought something else there, but I guess we'll have to find out and stay tuned, huh?
Man, a few words. I'm going to get those words out of him on January 1st, the New Year's Nemesis. So But before we get to that, we even have Clash on Christmas. I mean, things never end in XCW. So,
People ask me all the time. I'll ask you a funny question. People ask me all the time. I actually had a message. Somebody messaged me. They go, Tom, when do you sleep? And I was like, not too much. My first lady of Sportswire, Miss Zena, asked me the same question. I'm like, when do you sleep? What's your schedule like? And I'm like, well, if you saw my schedule, you'd probably want to drop dead. But your schedule is similar to mine. In some ways, your schedule might be worse. I mean, I guess I should ask, do you sleep? Because I know my answer for me is not so much. But do you ever sleep?
it's a rarity.
There you go. Makes two
Especially
of
when you're
us.
running, the all access channel and you got new content going up on there, blooper reels and other different federations
I'm
from
loving the
over.
Showtime footage, by the way. We get to see guys kind of hanging out at the gym, St. Paul's gym with the basketball. I thought that was really cool, by the way, the Showtime footage.
Yeah, we have sometime later. We have Showtime. Free time interviews about to make a return to
Oh,
the
I
channel.
loved free time interviews. Love
Yeah,
those.
we have a huge crop of new episodes coming out. Jay Ellis, Hunter Halkins, Shane Shaw, Aaron Blaze, revised version with Julian Floyd Jacobs. There's a lot of them coming
Love
out.
Julian Void Jacobs. I want to give Julian. I know he's trying to be an EBW hopeful, although Parsley and Slater call him EBW Regis. But I love Julian Void Jacobs. He's really one of the glue guys. I think that in a lot of ways he does so much inside and outside the ring. And what an honor it was to speak with Julian Void Jacobs. And we're going to induct him
Unsung
into a Hall of
hero.
Fame. Yep. There you go. Unsung. He's one of those under the radar guys that's really so versatile, so valuable. You don't realize until you get a chance to watch him in the ring and know him. And we're going to induct him into our Hall of Fame here on Sportswire in 2024 as well. Before I change topics, I do want to bring up Aaron Blaze because Aaron Blaze, it's really nice to see Aaron Blaze here in XCW because Aaron Blaze, I know Aaron Blaze outside of XCW. I've known him in terms of different places. I wouldn't want to quite say he's a Jack Delta in terms of where he goes, but he's definitely always been at the top of the list of guys that you see in different companies. Jackson Law is another one who Jackson Law has made a huge home in XCW. Obviously, Jackson has traveled in a number of places, and we've had Jackson on a few times and love Jackson Law and everything he does for the company. But Aaron Blaze, I think, is really showing you why this company is the gold standard because Aaron Blaze, before he came to XCW, definitely made a name for himself. And he was one of those emerging talents that you saw in some of your favorite companies. And you have to talk to me about what Aaron Blaze, because he's now become one of these guys also that I think is certainly a contender for, let's say, an international or new age title. But I could very well see him holding one of those titles in sometime in 2024.
Big thing for him is that he's still of the mindset outside of on screen persona. He's still of the mindset that he deserves to be in certain positions, and a lot of that plays into that his age.
I
He's
know.
got a lot of growing up in this business to do, or there's guys like myself and Corey Lee and James Cerebral and Tommy
Chris Jones, yep.
who've been around the block for 20 years, and we've forgotten more than he probably knows. I think he has all the tools to be successful. I think that sometimes he's his own worst enemy in those regards. So we'll see what plays out for him in the future. He's definitely made a name for himself. Some good, some very, very bad. It's just a matter of him breaking out of his shell, and him making the commitment to XCW was huge for him. It is a big pivotal moment. I mean, that's 12 hours of travel for him bi-weekly for
Well,
XCW
we saw
content.
that,
So
and we saw that earlier this week where we saw that travel, and we saw basically when he got there, when he was here, what he was doing, and I think that obviously we hope that he would go on the trajectory that we'd like to see him on. He certainly made a name for himself. I agree with you 1,000%. Some people are going to know him on Sportswire as, again, one of these guys that's traveled, and some people are going to have an opinions. But I would also say, what, people have had opinions about Jackson Law in the past, but I think Jackson has really become a staple in XCW TV. And he's really, I think, another guy that and we obviously know he could be a champion anytime with Jackson. And I think if Jackson can do it, I think Aaron Blaze, if he goes on that right course, can be in that place in 2024. So we'll have to see what happens. And I want to remind people also in 17 minutes. So after we're off the air, but if you are anyway, you have a TV in the background, head on over to YouTube. You have a second TV and put on XCW Shelbyville and go out there and watch Encounters episode 2. Because if what you saw last week, I mean, listen, you saw Jacob Collins and Brady Branson. What a dream that match was. You saw the foundation and the first reel. I mean, another dream match. And you're going to see a slew of dream matches between now and the next few months. And speaking of people that we're going to see that you alluded to, and he was certainly a favorite of ours, one of my more memorable interviews this year in 2023, Mr. Jack Delta. Mr. Delta here is certainly, we would hope to see him a lot more in XCW. You kind of alluded to that. It says, got to pay your dues, go under some people, and play to the vision of the promoters. There are times I don't agree with things, but to eventually get what you want, you got to play ball. You want to talk about Jack Delta's comment, and also Jack Delta, we'd love to see hopefully here home in XCW. I know he's going to be wrestling in a company in Michigan coming up on New Year's Day, but if it was up to me, Fletch, if you don't mind me saying this before you comment, as the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station, and your voice of all wrestling, the Reverend Tom Bryce, I would love Jack Delta to make his permanent home, if he ever would want to, in XCW.
Yeah, I mean, we've had the opportunity in 2023 to work with Jack Delta a little more. Of course, having him out for Halloween Harvest in the pre-show where he went one-on-one with Jacob Collins, and then of course you're going to see him tonight on Encounters as he goes one-on-one with Eric Mason for the New Age title. Also on that show, as we were talking about, Aaron Blaze is also on the card tonight. He goes one-on-one with Jay Ellis.
Oh my goodness! I mean, yeah. I almost wish, Fletch. I almost wish I would take the record this interview and pause and go just watch XCW. Our first lady of Sportswire. I might be busy after the interview because I might be catching up on Jack Delta and Aaron Blaze. I mean, somebody wake me up here. I mean, this is a dream right now.
Yeah, and having Jack Delta a part of what we've had the opportunity to work with him has been nothing short of amazing. I think we have a really good relationship, and I'm sure that there's going to be more opportunity for us to work in the future. And stay tuned. He could be XCW New Age champion tonight.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, what a dream match. Everybody's talking about, okay, Gunther and Brock Lesnar. Everybody's talking about MJF. You know what? All I think about right now is, once this interview is over, go into XCW's YouTube page and Jack Delta and Eric Mason. And you know what? I'm going to watch that match on loop because Eric Mason's become one of my favorites here, a 2-time New Age champion. He's obviously going for the 7 defenses here for the international title, which I'm going to get to. And Jack Delta, again, one of our favorite interviews on Sportswire Radio this year. We're so grateful for Jack. And one of my New Year's resolutions is to get Jack Delta back onto Sportswire Radio in 2024 because I feel like we've only scratched the surface with Jack. And I'm happy to see Jack in XCW. And I like to say it again. If he ever wanted to, I would love to see him make his permanent home in XCW because to me, XCW is the place that I think every wrestler should be in. I think XCW for what it has to offer, for the footage, the content, the locker room. Think about the people. Look at what Fletch does for this company. Look at what Fletch does for people in this sport. Listen, when Fletch says something, I do it. Some promoters, Fletch, they say, well, I don't want you to bring this person on. I say, frig it. If Fletch says it, if Fletch tells me to do something, I listen to Fletch because Fletch, if it wasn't for Fletch, there wouldn't be any of these other companies that we come on to Sportswire Radio and speak with. So that's why with Fletch and XCW, this is so proud to have this company here with us each and every week or every other week here on Sportswire Radio. Speaking of the international title, I got to get to Leon Lux here. I mean, this is one of the more unlikely champions and really I don't know if it's comeback of the year. I don't know if it's just in terms of wrestling, maybe more unlikely champion of the year, but you have to talk about Leon Lux because I don't know if a lot of people even 2 months ago would have said, we're talking about Leon Lux as the international champion. And you know what? I tell you what, Eric Mason, if you get so lucky for that title to those 7 defenses you get through to get that shot at Leon Lux, I think he's going to be very difficult to dethrone. So you have to talk about one of the more unlikely champions right now in this entire sport, and Leon Lux, our international champion.
Before I get to Leon, I want to make sure that I get everything that Jack Delta said in his post as well. So
sure.
before I get to Leon, I can't agree with Jack Delta anymore and what he said. He hit the nail on the head. And I'm sure, especially him, as well traveled as he is, the 20 plus companies that he's worked, as well as guys like, Captain Law, Jackson Law, who's had the opportunity to work with so many different promoters. I know that there's some guys out there that's, had their words, had their opinions of me as a person or me as a promoter. And, you know, what he said right there is it's so true. Everybody has their own vision for things. I know some people think that it's an ego thing or it's me having a chip on my shoulder. I'll be honest, like I'm I feel like I'm extremely humble. Um, Not until, the last few months when I had just the outpouring from all the outside talent coming to me, I just thought that I was such a small pond when it comes to what we do, this hobby of wrestling. But you know, everybody has their own visions. Everybody has their own thing. I hate that people think that I have a chip on my shoulder. I feel like I've been very giving to a lot of the guys, especially, I'm sure that the Omen, I'm sure that Jack Delta, JX, a lot of the guys who came out to encounters will tell you
Golden
that
GP, sure.
I
Dirty
tried I
Work.
tried everything possible to keep it even for everybody, to make sure that it was worth everyone's travel. You know, the guys, Jack Delta, he's traveling 5 hours. The guys from IMF are traveling 6 hours, and I tried everything that I could to make sure that they were working the absolute best talent that they could possibly work with, that they had the best scenarios that they could have had. And so that's part of my vision is, I want to bring these guys in and not only give dream matches, but give them the opportunity to, you know, when you're in a working relationship, I'm hoping that, guys that are watching IMF are crossing over and being able to watch our events as well. I hope that people that are, watching ours now have an understanding and they're watching IMF for the first time. And the same goes for, like Jack Delta, of course, you alluded to a little bit ago. He's working in ROEW. He's got his thing going on with the good guy CJ Black right now. And I'm hoping, when you see Jacob Collins going one on one with Brady Branson or Jack Delta going on one with Eric Mason, where are these guys from and what are they doing? If they don't know, now they're going to go over to ROEW and they're going to watch their brand. And I like the ROEW product. I
Well, so
think
do
that they do a
I.
good job.
I
So
think ROEW is a fantastic product, and I think that what they've done in their short time in existence, I think they should be applauded. And I think that what they've done in terms of the wrestling aspect of their roster, they need to certainly get their flowers as well. But I feel like again, you are definitely have no chip on your shoulder, and I think that again, I'll continue to say it. If it wasn't for you, and I'm not just saying it because you're on here, I'm not just saying it because you've plugged Sportswire on XCW TV. I'm saying it because I see it and I'm a judge of character and I've been doing this for 5 years and I speak with people of all backgrounds, all walks of life. When XCW comes on the Sports Wire, I get emotional. I get emotional thinking about XCW because XCW to me is a company that I wish every company would be the way you guys are. Some companies, we do business with on Sports Wire, we love them. We love everybody here. But XCW doing things to me is like being in WWF or WWE because to me, just that what you guys do in this product, in this talent, this locker room that you've built, I mean, I think at the end of the day, and I'll continue to say it till I'm dead in the grave, if it wasn't for you, none of these companies would exist. And wouldn't exist. And I would also say further that I agree with you also on the fact that, yeah, I think IMF people should be watching XCW. And I also want to say that here on Sportswire, one of the jobs that we've done here, and that's why I keep XCW in the rotation as often as I do, is because of the fact I want people from IMF. I want ROEW fans. I want the company in Tennessee. I want that company in Alabama. I want that company in Wisconsin. I want that company in Maryland. I want that company in Connecticut. You know what? I even want the British wrestling fans that have been with me for over 4 years. I want the independents that come on here. I want them to see the XCW product. I want them to come to you because I think that the bouquet of flowers given to you by the fact that Richard Regal wants to wrestle here shows that that's why people should tune into XCW. Mr. Delta has a few different things he wants to say before I get to a favorite of XCW's. It's a big challenge. Eric told me he had a old school ass whooping waiting for me. I would love to be a mainstay in XCW. It's just so far away. He agrees with my statement about XCW, but he also says if XCW was purely taped the way Encounters was, I'd be an XCW wrestler. It's hard to tell long-term stories, but there are so many guys on the roster that they could do dream matches for a year.
That's fair. And I do, it is a lot different. I think that's one of the things that, makes XCW different from a lot of places. And that's why I created the Encounters endeavor, is because we don't get the opportunity to work with guys like Jack Delta and guys in the IMF and guys in ROEW
Sure.
and stuff because of the way that we run our business. Of course, we're going out there every other week and performing another show. And I understand, committing to a 5-hour drive bi-weekly would be a lot. I completely understand. And that's why I created the opportunities that I created. And of course, every time that I have the opportunity, and I know it sounds bad when you say, hey, I got you for a match on the pre-show. I know it sounds bad, but like, I
not XCW,
have multiple
not
platforms.
XCW, not XCW. Yep.
Yeah, I have multiple platforms. So putting a guy on the pre-show, it doesn't make them less than talent. It's just a way for those guys to come in and be able to showcase their talents on our channels, and we broadcast the pre-show among different channels. So when I have opportunities like that, when I have, Jack Delta be able to come out and wrestle Jacob Collins, when those opportunities come, I know who to reach out to. I know who the players are, and I know who are the ones that are going to bring their A game. Jack Delta being one of those guys. So,
no question.
More opportunities are coming up for us to work with a lot of these guys. And so I'm just hoping to keep the line of communication with all these guys open, for the foreseeable future, for sure. If I get an opportunity to bring those guys out, and maybe there is more of, an opportunity for us to do pre-tape stuff. Guys like Jack Delta, of course, will be one of the first ones to know. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I know that it's a lot different than coming out to a Fed and wrestling 5, 6, 7, I don't know, however many Jack Delta wrestled CW that one day, 7, 8.
Yeah, we had him on, and Jack was talking about that, and I watched when he was doing them, his Instagram videos, his live IG videos, and yeah, Jack is pretty much, as I always call him, and I say this lovingly, he's like the Johnny Cash. I've been everywhere, man. I mean, Jack has been everywhere. And my one hope, though, is I wish Jack would bring that hair look back, though. I would hope that Jack would bring the, I thought that was funny. I hope Jack would appreciate that. But yeah, Jack, thank you for all you're doing. And my New Year's resolution is to have you back on Sportswire, but also most importantly, I do hope, if it could be feasible, that XCW would be your home, because I can't stress this enough. And I know we're celebrating, we're basically, congratulating you as the 4th member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. And certainly that is an honor to induct you. It was certainly an endorsement earned the minute that you messaged me on Facebook 8 months ago. But to me, XCW, this is a company that is really, it gets me emotional. There's very few things on Sportswire that get me emotional to talk about. But hearing the stories that people, Blackheart's emotional story, ACT, the boyhood dream, basically, it was, where he was a fan of XCW and where the fans hated him so much, where now, the fans they believe in him so much. I mean, what an amazing turnaround. What a comeback story, in a way, in a life-changing story. We saw ACT's character. Obviously, Chris Jones and EBW coming back. Eric Mason, kind of like, in a lot of ways, maybe XCW's version of Goldberg, and the fact that, maybe in 6 months from now, 9 months from now, this guy could be a world heavyweight champion. Julian Void Jacobs, and getting to know him and his story. Corey Lee, obviously the Mount Rushmore in this sport, having him on. I mean, even Trinity, Trinity being our female ring announcer, and what a job she's done with that. I mean, Brogan O'Shea. I mean, there are so many stories here in XCW, and that's why XCW to me is the gold standard. And I want to say hello to somebody else who's been a big big fan of XCW, and his father-in-law actually works for your company, Mr. Festus Davis, Mr. Michael Blackheart. He says, I appreciate all the shows you put on. You're the man. Thank you for all you do in this business. We attended Extreme King last year for a bit with my daughter. Absolutely loved it. And anything you want to say about Festus? I know Festus did one. He did one ceremonies at the Viewers' Choice this year. Anything you want to say about Festus Davis here? Obviously, our ref and Mr. Blackheart's father-in-law.
Just like I said earlier, it's a close, tight-knit family, and Festus is a part of that. And Michael's part of that extended family. So
love Michael.
Not going to spoil anything on here yet, but
Please don't.
Michael is coming out to Cold Day in Hell in 2024, and I'm excited for the little bit of work that we're going to get to do together then. So I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I love Festus. I love having him on a part of XCW. He's definitely dedicated to the brand. I think he's done more in wrestling in XCW than a lot of people know. And I'm going to bring that to the forefront. And here in 2024, starting in spring, Festus and I are actually going to sit down, and I'm going to do a full-length biography on the life of Festus. So stay tuned for that.
And I would like to go further. I would love to have Festus on Sportswire one day. I think that would be a fascinating conversation to kind of pick his brain, talk about maybe the way he sees things in the ring versus, let's say, the talent or anybody else out there even you. So I think it'd be a fascinating interview one day if Festus, our senior official here in XCW, would like to come on here. Mr. Delta would also further like to say congratulations on the Hall of Fame induction. I would like to say if Mr. Delta would like to come back on the Sportswire, I would definitely like to induct him, but we'll certainly let Mr. Delta figure out his schedule. Fletch lives and breathes XCW. The amount of work you guys, yes. Now that real quick before I get to Omen, I mean, I really don't think that people realize that you spend 24/7 XCW. Literally, your blood isn't red. Your blood is explosive championship wrestling. If they were to cut you up, Fletch, I think they would see just XCW, just all up and down. It wouldn't be red blood. It wouldn't be black blood. It would be XCW. That's to me how much you make this company grow and how much you do everything possible for the XCW, for the galaxy. I mean, everything you do for XCW and the fans. And that's why the fans are so important. They need to support XCW in any way possible here. And I want people to do that here because right now at 8 o'clock, if you have a chance, put that TV on the background while you're watching this. Go to YouTube, XCW Shelbyville, XCW All Access, but especially Encounters Episode 2, Season 1 on the XCW YouTube page. Go out there and check out. You got 2 dream matches. You know that my plans are going to be just sitting down after we're done and just putting my chair up and just putting my feet on and lounging and watching those 2 dream matches that we're going to wind up seeing. Jack Delta's one of them against Eric Mason for that New Age Championship. I want to, before I get to Omen Black, say hello to my buddy Ron out there in the state of Pennsylvania. And yes, for you, Michael, Festus on Sportswire, somebody has to make that happen. I have to bring him up because he is a big part of episode 1, and something tells me here that there's a question mark on maybe when and why we'll see him again on Sportswire Radio. That is, of course, the boogeyman of the Midwest, who, by the way, is the brand new first ever IMF Hardcore Champion, Mr. Omen Black. Of course, it's his show here on Sportswire, and he is a part of the foundation. The foundation of what they've done this year is certainly big, big things. He says hello to Mr. Delta. But he also wants to say, when does Fletch want the foundation back? And here's why this is important, because if we watched Encounters episode 1, we know that the foundation gave the first official loss in a tag team match, 2-on-2 match of Parsley and Slater, the first real, the tag team champions. And they were raising up those tag team championships. And we had Omen Black on when Justin Parsley was inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. We had Omen Black from a rest stop. He just went out and got gas. He went out and got some soda, some Burger King, whatever it was. And he stopped and he talked about the fact that he had those tag team championships. So I have to ask you, Fletch, I mean, the foundation, they're not technically the tag team champions, but they have possession of those titles. And will we see Omen Black and Soldier GP back in XCW, especially with those gold that they have possession of?
Well, the only answer here is Yes, you will see the foundation in XW again.
Oh,
So
oh,
stay tuned.
oh.
I'm sure that there's a lot more in our relationship with IMF and the foundation to come.
So what did you think about Omen and Soldier? I mean, these guys, Omen. I mean, he's basically making his name. He's defeating independent wrestlers. He's going up there and doing his own death matches. I mean, he's going on here in Sportswire. He basically punked out this guy Craven Rage, who used to call himself the Backyard Nightmare, the ruler of the yard. He was basically kind of trying his best take at Roman Reigns, and basically for the better part of a year he kind of punked this guy out, Craven Rage. And, Omen Black has been in also a number of different places like ROEW. We've seen him obviously in WC, and now we saw him in XCW. I mean, what was your impressions, close up firsthand of what Soldier and Omen did? Because what I think I've seen, I don't think I've seen a team like I've seen what the Foundation did in XCW.
Well, first off, total pros. They were a pleasure to have. I wish that I wasn't as busy as I was at Encounters, where I would have had the opportunity to have more conversation with them and to get to know them better, of course. And with everything going on at Encounters, it was just total madness. So I wish that I had the opportunity to be face to face with them and have conversations with them. And I know we try to talk here and there over the phone, but with as crazy busy as our lives are, that isn't always a thing. So I guarantee that we have more work to do together in the future, and I'm sure that we're going to have the opportunity to do so. As for on screen, they're total monsters, and I feel like they were booked well. And there's more of them to come and encounter, so you just have to stay tuned.
They were extreme. No, I've watched these. I know obviously you're busy with XCW, but we basically cover almost everybody on Sportswire. Obviously, the companies that you certainly basically fathered or grandfathered them in, basically. But I've seen these guys in different promotions. They've definitely been extremely, impressive and professional everywhere they've gone. But what I saw in XCW was almost like it was like they went to WWF. It was almost like I looked at them, and again, I've known these guys. I've gotten to know them for the better part of almost a year now. And these guys looked larger than life. And that's a lot for me to say because I've seen them in ROEW. I've seen them in WCE. And I've seen them punk out people here on this platform that didn't want any part of them. And these guys looked like larger than life, that these guys could draw $1 million and they would draw that $1 million in XCW. I know IMF is their baby, but I mean, listen, I would certainly love to see more of them in the future. And you basically answered that question. And, look, and that's why, listen, and you got to get, Omen was so mad at Parsley, and he so much wanted to say something to him last week on the air that he was at this truck stop and he barely had lighting. He was in an awning, and, he just stopped for gas. They had hours to go to Iowa, and he felt so motivated, and he felt so much in a way that he had to basically confront Parsley and basically like say, look, here I am. You guys couldn't do anything to me. And, this is why I'm the boogeyman of the Midwest. And I think that's why Omen Black, anywhere he goes, that's why he proves to be what he is. And he says, yes, hopefully we see you in IMF. And Mr. Blackheart wants a collection. I have a joke for you, Fletch. You'll probably appreciate this. If you wanted, maybe you could almost have the viewing ceremonies, or you could have maybe charge people a few dollars to see all those belts you have in that collection. Because I agree with Michael. I think people from all over the place on Sportswire should take a trip up to obviously XCW headquarters. Out there in Shelbyville, almost in a way similar to Titan Towers, because there really isn't any more Titan Towers. So if we go to XCW Towers out there in Shelbyville, they could see firsthand the XCW headquarters and how XCW is run. I mean, I am sure that you would certainly love to give the XCW Galaxy and many people on Sportswire those opportunities to take those photos with you in those championship belts.
This isn't even a quarter of them behind me. So not even a quarter. I'd say upwards of 80 plus belts. Just something that I always got into. So that was a common hobby that Kurt Acid and myself had. Is we were big belt collectors, and so Um, he started it, and then I kind of just went crazy. So it's like a mini museum in here.
Well, you know what? And I think that's why people one day will want to see the XCW headquarters and see how the XCW machine works and see why everything about XCW is number one. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the number one global radio station. We are here with the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, our fourth member. This is certainly the most earned one, I would say, of all of them yet and ever will be. That is the owner of the company, Mr. Joshua Fletcher, a.k.a. Fletch himself, of course, a man who's won 29 championships in 20 years. But most importantly, he is the man that had a vision. Not only did he change Shelbyville backyard wrestling, not only did he change Midwest backyard wrestling, but he changed all of wrestling, whether you're in the backyard, the underground, the semi-pros, the independents, even the pros. This is the man whose vision changed it all. And that's why he is the godfather of this sport and the godfather of so many companies out there, whether you're in Wisconsin, whether you're in Maryland, whether you're in Michigan, whether you're in Iowa, whether you're in Tennessee, whether you're now in Connecticut, Alabama, that backyard wrestling nexus. This is the man that you owe a debt of gratitude to, and this is the man you should induct into your Hall of Fame, all of them, because if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't be where you are today. And if you like what you hear from us on Sportswire Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you can watch our past, present, and future shows on our YouTube page. And also, we have an internet radio station where I hear from a birdie. They play a show called The Giving Receipts Show from two guys named Josh and Jaden, wink, wink. And we play that here all throughout the week. And I happen to love that show by Josh and Jaden. In fact, I love it so much when I'm like Fletch and I can't sleep. It's 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. What do I have on in the background? I have this little show called Giving Receipts. And I know millions of people have heard this show through Twitter, through our internet radio stations, through social media clips on Instagram and now Threads. And I hope you check it out also on our internet radio station at sportswireradio.org. And if you have a podcast out there, or if you want to play live music or anything else that you want to see, let me know and I'll give you the opportunity free of charge. I handle all the fees. I handle all the engineering, the maintenance, the production of the shows and the content, the scheduling, all of that. All you have to do is get in touch with me on sportswireradio.org. And if you want to see some things here about past, present, and future stars in XCW beaten written up, you can go to our brand new blog website at tumblr.com at Sportswire Radio, where we wrote about Justin Parsley being inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. We wrote about Mr. Blackheart himself, Eric Blackheart, being on to the Sportswire Radio and eventually Hall of Fame. And also Mr. Fletcher himself will have a statement for by tomorrow on him being the fourth member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. We will have more XCW coverage here coming up between now. Stay tuned for more details on that. But right now, we are very honored to have on the fourth member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, the owner and founder of XCW, the gold standard and the godfather of this sport, Mr. Joshua Fletcher. And I have a few more comments from Mr. Omen Black, who, by the way, is going to be here New Year's Day to get his place into the Sportswire Hall of Fame. Fletch, I'll be nice and honest. Without XCW and Fletch's dream, the world wouldn't have experienced what I bring to the sport. I want to say I really did enjoy my time in XCW so far and definitely will be back. What do you want to say to that?
Yeah, it's an honor to have him. It's an honor to have Jack Delta. It's an honor to have JX. The fact that all these guys travel so, far and broad and they come in and put their bodies on the line and to create the magic that XCW creates. I'm so happy to have everybody a part of it. And I'm glad that it was a positive experience. I've heard nothing but good things about the Encounters experience so far. So I'm really happy to hear that.
So have I, and I've heard through the grapevine from different people how much that they really were impressed with it. And I can tell you, I've heard the chatter from different people out there. In fact, I'll even say it. I've heard the chatter from some of the different companies in different states that I mentioned that come on the Sportswire, and they said XCW is a place that they would like to visit. So that's up to them to get in touch with you. I had to bring up JJ Kelty. Obviously, his career is, no longer. We saw his final match out there. And we saw the embracement between you, him, and Jay Ellis. And you have to talk about that because I really, it's funny. I know Parsley, we love Parsley on Sportswire. He's obviously become one of my favorites. He's become like a really good friend. Obviously, Omen has become a great friend as well. And it's his show anyway. So at this point, I have to say, that it's Omen's show. But we're kidding. We love Omen. But, JJ Kelty was actually the first thing I wanted to ask you about. And talk to me about that moment where you all embraced. Obviously, him and Jay Ellis were tag team partners. They held gold here in XCW. And kind of talk about JJ Kelty's career and what he meant to the company.
I met JJ, so it's kind of a weird way that everything came together for JJ. JJ, of course, he'd been wrestling 20 plus years as well. Independent backyard. He's been there, done that, pretty much everything. And I met JJ kind of by accident. So at one point, XCW was doing some promotion on Facebook, and one of his talents from FWL had kind of come to the defense of XCW and to the backyard wrestling community as a whole, against some asshat who's just trying to drown out backyard wrestling and kind of give his perception of what he thought, whatever. So that was kind of, I talked to that individual a couple of times post that, that scenario, and he was like, hey, you should meet my promoter, my head booker. And so that was kind of how that all came to be. And this was back in 2017. JJ and I had some conversations after that about, maybe having a working relationship because to that point in 2017, XCW had never worked with any other outside companies. So I was looking at the possibility of, hey, this could be good in terms of viewership on YouTube and, to cross promote. It's not going to help just the XCW brand, but the FWL brand. And if, the backyard wrestling community is strong as a whole, it's good for everyone. So, late 2017, early 2018, XCW and FWL began doing co-branded shows. Later on, XCWA would come in, we'd make tri-brand shows, and that's where the Eric Blackhearts, the Trinity Parkers, and the Hayden Vexes and Deacon Storms of the world came from. And so like we were having a blast in 2018 and doing all these tri-brand shows, and JJ came to me at one point and was like, I want to be able to make XCW part of my home, outside of FWL. So in early 2019, JJ made the commitment 100% that he was going to be part of this XCW brand. And I know he probably didn't get to do everything that he wanted to do, but unfortunately with, as long as he's been in the business and all the things that he's put his body through, his body just couldn't, handle taking too many more bumps. And so he said in early 2023 that he was going to do everything that he could this year, and he was going to, wrap up his in-ring career. And so he, again, is just one of those people that's been really special. He's been part of the XCW family. I'm happy to see him be able to, I'm sure that traveling from Fort Wayne, Indiana to Chauvel, Indiana, you're looking at about a 3-hour trip.
Sure.
I'm sure the wear and tear of his travels and then everything that he puts his body through, Saturdays and XCW, and then he's traveling Sundays back home to FWL and performing there. I'm sure that it was just a lot. So I'm happy to see him be able to recover and heal. And, he took on another child that wasn't, his, and they adopted. And, but he's got a lot of things going on in his life. He, really successful journeyman. He went to school through his time in XCW. So JJ has a lot of things going on. I'm just really happy that we got the great 5 years that we had with him.
Absolutely. And that's why I wanted to spend a few minutes on him and congratulate him on his career, because obviously watching what we saw at Final Chapter, we wanted to at least be able to give him that moment And that was actually, like I said before, that was the first thing I actually wanted to ask you, other than inducting you into the Hall of Fame, because I thought it was important to kind of put a bow on his career. Anything we could ever do to certainly promote and talk about him in 2024. Anybody on the XCW roster on behalf of the Galaxy, we would love to do that. I'm going to come back to Blackheart in a second, because I kind of felt
We
a
still have
little.
Leon to come back to too.
We're going to definitely do that as well, and I want to talk about them both. And I'm going to be putting a little emotional on Blackheart as well. But I want to talk about ACT, our champion. I have to mention ACT because obviously when we had you on here, he was obviously feuding with Corey Lee. And we thought maybe he could kind of get the job done. But then kind of Brady Branson kind of usurped his way in there and, certainly took the world title and held it for a while. But ACT is able to achieve the boyhood dream, as I have called it on Sportswire. He was a fan of this company and he worked his way up. And again, if you would have asked people 2 years ago, or maybe less than 2 years ago, would ACT would be somebody that the Galaxy would have believed in and got behind the way it did, people would have said, you're nuts. They would say I'm nuts anyway for a lot of things, but he is our champion right now. He's got his work cut out for him, though, because he's got Hayden Vex gunning for him. But do talk, though, for the time being, before we come back to Blackheart and Leon Lux, about our champion ACT. And it's really one of, I think, the most dramatic turnarounds in what the Galaxy feels about him, maybe more so than any talent that we've had in recent memory.
ACT had reached out to me a year prior to even debuting in XCW. As just a fan, and at the time he was in college, and it was going to take up a little more of his time than was going to be beneficial for the company. And so when a year later rolled over in 2020, and he was like, I've wrapped up with college, and I'm looking to get into XCW, and he came in immediately. His very first time out, we were doing a promo class, and I had him cut a promo. We basically give him a random scenario. Oh, hey, this guy broke your favorite colored pencil. Cut a promo on him about why you're going to beat him up because he broke your colored pencil. And he cut this masterful, just mind blowing promo on Kurt Acid, and we're all like, oh. So we knew what we had right off the bat, and then just seeing him, and he was, and he obviously he did his journalism and broadcasting in high school and stuff, and he had that look. He had that look, and we're like, what about you're in college, you've done all these things, you have this look of this snarky college prep, ACT, and we didn't know where this character was going to go or how we were going to be able to even pivot him to a position of being a top guy or even being a baby face when we brought him in, and the transformations that he's made to get to the top, and he's really got people behind him, is really special. So here we are going into 2024. He's the XCW champion, and I know that should be a goal for everybody. And then when you lose it, your goal should be to get it back. So for ACT to finally get to that pinnacle, he won the briefcase last year, and then had an opportunity to win the title, and it came up short. So his journey, his story, was a story that we've never told like it. I mean, it's very special. Of course, coming up here soon, you were talked about the Under the Lens episode with Aaron Blaze. We have another episode of Under the Lens coming up with ACT's championship win, and you're going to get a little more behind the scenes of ACT as the person outside of XCW, and a little bit of that story of what made his championship reign so special. So it's been an honor to see him grow. Now he's at his hardest part, though, maintaining the title. And
we spoke about that with, I think, Justin, and we were talking about with obviously some of the other guys. even that were in XW, that the hardest thing to do is to keep that championship because everybody's gunning for, it's one thing to kind of chase, but now you're the guy that's being chased. So we're obviously going to see what happens. And Hayden Vex has certainly got a lot on his mind, and certainly on EBW. And as you point, I do want to come back to Leon Lux, because Leon Lux is certainly, he's gotten in the mind of Hunter Halkin. Obviously, that's a whole other
Definitely.
issue. And Eric Mason would like to have a crack at him. And let's continue to talk back about Leon Lux, because we spent a little bit of time on him. But again, just really one of the more intriguing champions, and I think he might have the most interesting kind of storyline right now of any champion. That's saying a lot in our company.
Yeah, well, starting back from the beginning, Leon and I had been acquainted for years. Even as small children, I mean, Leon's mom worked with my dad at the same place, and so we've always been acquainted. We've always known each other through the years. I mean, we live in a smaller town too, so it's easy to to know each other. So he came in originally as Billy Supernova in the early years of XCW, all the way back in like 2007. Um, Unfortunately, he was in the company off and on until about 2014. Different. He had a different life path than I had. My focus was XCW and building relationships with a lot of these guys, and he had different focus, and had some of his kids early on in his life, and different things, and a lot of factors played in 2013, 2014, whatever year that was that he decided to move away from XCW. He had to go on his own path, and part of his path was to become a professional wrestler. And he went and he learned from some of the best of the local Indiana independent wrestling promotions and wrestlers that he possibly could. And he really went out there and made a name for himself, and he busted ass. And I wouldn't say that we really had a falling out, but we after he left XCW in 2013, 2014, he went on a different trajectory than what I was, and so our paths didn't cross, and we had different ambitions and different goals, and so we lost contact. Last year, Leon had reached out to me and expressed some interest in coming out and performing, and I was blown away at the opportunity for Leon to come back into the fold, and of course that was a one-off, and he came back home to XCW. He did the one-off at Destined for Greatness in February of 2023, where he was a surprise opponent for Tommy Merriman, handpicked by Brady Branson. And from there, we rekindled our relationship. And, he wants to take everything that he's learned from all these other great independent wrestlers. He wants to take all of his experiences, and he wants to continue to help and grow the XCW roster. And it's been so awesome to have Leon back in the fold. He's such a smart and talented wrestler. It's unbelievable what he can do. And so to bring him in, and I was thinking to myself, who do I put Leon with in XCW that's hungry, that wants to learn everything, who wants to take on all wrestling knowledge like a sponge? That guy was Hunter Halkin. And they created magic all fall. Everything post Summermania between those two.
Everybody that's come on here has said that Hunter really is the guy to watch because of the feud with Leon. That's basically exactly what you just said.
Yeah, and I think Hunter will credit a lot of his successes, maybe not so much on screen, but if you ask Hunter Halkin, if you ask Hunter Halkin, the man, when he's talking about his successes in wrestling right now, he's going to point to Leon Lux. And I, of course, like I've been saying all night, stay tuned to Encounters, because things are far from over.
Oh, baby, I cannot wait. And that's why the first thing I'm doing after I'm off the air in a little while, maybe about half hour or so, is go to XCW Shelbyville on YouTube and check out Encounters episode 2. I've actually even got the notification on my phone when anything XCW comes on so I can go sit there and watch it. So, I mean, that's what I do all the time when I get my chance is to tune in and watch XCW content. This is why this is the gold standard. I cannot stress enough. To me, it's XCW is where the big boys play. To me, XCW, if you've made it in XCW, you can make it anywhere. And I think it shows you that again, Leon and his talent, his abilities being here, it shows you that the top talent in this sport, in indies, pro guys, they want to come here. And it shows you because of this man right here and what this man has done for this sport. Again, there's so many companies that come on here and say this, or that on Sportswire. They're the best, they're the greatest. No, they're not the best, they're not the greatest. It's this man. It's because of this man again that you wouldn't be where you are today. So this man's the greatest, and that's why this man is the fourth member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. I want to say hello to our resident rock star, Mr. Sean Jovi, another guy, by the way, in the foundation he made a huge leap this year in 2023, and he's also got a Discord page which I want to promote for all backyard wrestlers. So go out there and check it out. Maybe one day the Interstate Openweight Champion at WC's got a big following on YouTube. He's got almost 700 subscribers for his YouTube channel. He's definitely a guy that, you know what, could certainly see him maybe down the road in the XCW. You'll never know there. I want to say hello to DJ Wolbert from Unholy. How you doing out there? And he also says, sign Remy Ravage. That's what he wants you to do.
I've heard that name. So never say never in XCW, of course.
Absolutely.
As for Sean Jovi, I actually got the opportunity to watch his match from the IMF Winter Clash, where he went one-on-one with Craven Rage. Great job. I was blown away watching his suicide dive.
Kudos to you, sir. You got to watch his cannonballs. His cannonballs are like nothing else like it. Yeah, Sean is great. Sean is awesome. Sean is you become one of our favorites. I've known Sean now for maybe Sean will quote me about almost 2 years now, about a year and a half we've known each other. So yeah, Sean would definitely be a guy I'd love to see in Indiana one day.
And I've had the invite from Craven to make an appearance at WCE. So of course, again, never say never.
Well, you know what? Certainly stay tuned for that. But, I want to, well, as I realize I've only got so much time with you, I got to bring up Eric Blackheart because Eric Blackheart, we're going to induct into the Hall of Fame probably late January, right around Cold Day in House, maybe right in that early February period. So we'll try to do it either right before or right after, depending on scheduling. But Eric Blackheart, another guy that I really feel like he does so much for XCW, and it was so good to see him at the end of his career here. And he means so much to the company. He's transitioned so nicely now as a commentator. We see him obviously. Oh my God. I think I said it here. I mean, and I appreciate he even mentioned me in a funny way, which I was so thankful for. And, we won't hold it against him because we love Blackheart, but also talking about what he does behind the scenes for the graphics and the editing here with Mental Lab Studios. And, Eric Blackheart, certainly one of the more emotional world champions, also his championship run and then winning the Wrestler of the Year. In another moment, maybe more emotional than you and Parsley this year at the JWF, but kind of how ACT gave up that award. And obviously it showed you like how far that ACT, has become. But, without getting too emotional, talk about Eric Blackheart and just, what he meant to this company and now how he's transitioned. And I think doing maybe more than he ever will do on the screen as a talent for what he does right now as a commentator, but also what he does in helping put together and produce these shows with myself and the rest of the galaxy get to enjoy time and time again.
Blackheart is such an amazing talent because he is so talented in multiple things. Not just what you've seen in ring and what he was able to do in there. And I mean, I've went to war with Blackheart, myself, and Vengeance against Heart of the Storm still is regarded as one of my absolute favorite matches in XCW. That took place in 2021. And then him and I got to kind of call back to that at Halloween Harvest a year or two ago,
Yep.
and the guy kicked a friggin' computer in my face. But no, but not only that, but you can look at him as a commentator, as a performer, as the editor, but he's also just such an amazing person beyond his talent. Um, Him and I have a lot of the same visions in regards of the way XCW should be presented and the way that it should look. He really understands my vision, and I feel like there's very few people in this world that have really been able to capture all the little details of storytelling and editing and production that he that no one gets it. Like there's so many people that's come through XCW over the years that I've tried to explain, the rhymes and reasons of why things should be and how things should be shot and how things should be edited, and they just don't see my vision or don't understand my vision. And I think he's one of the only few people that are around that really truly understands my vision and brings the vision to life. And um for all the talents that he had in the ring, for the talents that he brings outside the ring, he may be even more talented. um I mean, this guy is busting out content for me left and right. you know we try to split everything as much as we can. Free time interviews me, rundowns me. The new Under the Lens series is me. And then you've got sometime later that's Trinity Parker. Recall coming up. We have a new season coming up, and you know Jackson Law's going to be stepping into the role of doing that. The rest falls on Eric Blackheart. These encounters episodes that you're seeing. Um, you know the Hall of Fames, the Viewers Choice Awards, all the big events that you see through the year, Summer Mania, Extreme King, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of that credit goes to him, and being able to see my vision. So to be able to have him a part of this family and then continue to do the talented things that he's doing is just unreal. I can't thank him enough. If I could pay him to just sit around and edit my stuff, and that would be his living, I would.
Don't get any ideas, Eric Blackheart. Don't get any ideas. I mean, if you do want to help out with those ideas, you can actually buy some merchandise for XCW, but don't get any ideas, Mr. Blackheart. We certainly.
But yeah, he's another unsung hero, and people are super appreciative of what he brings to the table. His him on the table is just mind blowing. He's so good. He's so good at telling these stories.
The flow with him and JJ, it's like, I'll be honest, I said it on the show a couple weeks ago when we had him on. I mean, these guys, it's like they're just like you've only been on commentary together, what, 3.5 months, but you think they've been on the call together for 3-4 years. They're just that good, and it's almost like he knows every little insight, and he knows the locker room. And I think that's why it's so good to have him. We love Steve-O, obviously, but the fact of the matter is that, having Blackheart and his expertise, I don't think there's anybody right now in this sport, frankly, in our scene that has somebody like him on call. I think that just shows you, again, why XCW is the gold standard and why XCW really is the place to be. Because, again, with what Blackheart brings to the table, his knowledge, I mean, it's second to none.
And his emotion, like the emotion that he brings to his commentary, it is just it provides even more to the entertainment, to the value of what we're putting out. To be able to go out there and tell the story and have. That's why most places do post-production commentary, and XCW strives on having the live commentary because he really knows how to draw emotion out of the situation.
Yeah, and you can't replace that live emotion. Yeah, I can do a post-production, and we love all the companies that do it, and I'm not gonna single them out, but but what we have here in this company, I mean, it's literally, this is why XCW is the absolute gold standard, because, again, you sit in that real-time moment, that moment in itself where you're right there, and you feel it, and you could see what Blackheart and JJ are going through, and that's why we're so excited about everything XCW. You're in about 20 or 25 minutes here with our now fourth member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, also a member of the XCW Hall of Fame. There's the owner and founder of this great company called Explosive Championship Wrestling. His name is Mr. Fletch, Joshua Fletcher himself, and DJ Walbert says, yes, Blackheart's commentating is gold. I can't let you not go away without asking about Brady Branson and EBW. It was the Brady Branson show at the Viewers' Choice Awards. And obviously what we've seen here still is that EBW, I asked you again at the beginning of the show, but I'm going to come back to, James Cerebral's got that hardcore title, and you've got Chris Jones is still out there, Luke Blaze, and, you certainly have to be feeling the heat, though, because you've been brought up here on this platform many times. We've had a lot of XCW coverage throughout the second half of the season. And EBW, Brady Branson, what do you think? They want to take this company over. They want to put XCW in the grave. This is your company. This is your baby. You of all people, we basically serenaded you here. We have sung your praises throughout this show tonight. But I have to talk to you about the fact that EBW wants to put your baby in the grave once and for all. You got to be wanting to do something about this.
And they're a legit threat when you have talent like Hayden Vex, Chris Jones, James Cerebral, Brady Branson, Miana Diaz. These are heavy hitters. But here's the thing. It's going to bring out the best in guys like ACT, Patrick O'Reilly, Brogan O'Shea, Jay Ellis. And even myself. It's going to bring out the best in us to have that, to have a rivalry, have a civil war within our own brand. It's going to bring out the best in everybody. Everybody wants to be at the top, and right now, hey, we have 2 world championships. And this is going to open up an opportunity for guys who may not have been given the right to face off for a major championship like that. Maybe give them that opportunity. There's a lot of guys that are on our XCW roster that haven't had their taste of world championship gold yet. That, with us having another championship in rotation, it opens up that opportunity. Guys like Patrick O'Reilly, DJ Wolbert, Jay Ellis, guys who have not had the opportunity to hold world championship gold, it opens up that opportunity for them to do so. So where there's good, there's bad. So, they've made this threat before. They've come in and they invaded XCW in 2013 and 2014, and they almost took the brand down then. But I feel like, especially with the talent that's on the roster right now, it's a taller task. I enjoy having the civil war of XCW versus EBW because it brings out the best.
But some people also say maybe, I have to bring this up because we've brought this up here on the show, especially with Brogan O'Shea, our EBW champion right now. We had him right after he won the title, and is this do you in a way? I don't even know if this is your moment tonight, but I have to ask it. Is this a ratings play? Listen, we know you're like me. You're a businessman. I'm obviously on the radio, and I have all these things that we different do, and you're a businessman. As a fellow businessman to another, you obviously see the ratings out there in Tennessee. You see the ratings out there in Iowa. You see the ratings out there in Maryland and all these other places. And, is this a ploy to bring back, to increase the views, to get the engagements up? Is this a ploy by you secretly to bring back EBW because you see what's going on around you, that these companies that you basically created are basically trying to outmaneuver you and trying to get more fans and steal some of the galaxy? People, we've spoke about this here on the platform, and I have to ask you that question directly.
Was it me specifically? No, it was Chris Jones, Brady Branson, and Luke Blaze that made this new invasion possible. But I'm along for the ride. And like I said, I feel like the Civil War of XCW versus EBW is compelling. Is it not?
I think, what? I got to be honest. and we do a lot on Sportswire with a lot of different places. I think that the storyline here by far has been the most compelling, consistent storyline because a lot of these other companies, yeah, I mean, they've had some really great storylines, and we're going to talk about more of them tomorrow and throughout the week on Sportswire until we get another person from the locker room to come on. But the fact of the matter is, this has been the most consistent, and almost, I would say, straightforward, just right in your face storyline. I would say the entire year on Sportswire, hands down.
So, I mean, yeah, like I said, me personally, no, bringing back EBW and just to go head to head with us isn't necessarily um, my idea, but to have the talent that came together that wanted to make a change, who wanted to bring out the best and the talent that are currently in XCW and create the Civil War, more the power to them. I'm all for the challenge, and I love seeing what it's done so far. When it's arguably brought out the best in ACT, the best in Brogan O'Shea, the
Jay
very
Ellis.
best in Patrick O'Reilly, JLs, all these guys that are facing, EBW. Patrick hadn't really had the opportunity to be in the forefront, to be in that main event level spot until EBW came along, and he's continuing to defend the company and be in those
Oh my
high
God,
profile
he has been
spots.
so emotional about this, conversely, almost like our version of James Cerebral.
Right. So, to be able to elevate everybody, elevate all the talent because of a war, I in a way, I guess I kind of endorse it. I mainly just to see how things play out. I think that they're going to take down the XCW Giant? Of course not. But I love to see them try, and I love to see everybody elevated for doing so.
All right. Well, we'll certainly find out. And I have a question directed towards you when it comes to XCW. That is the ROEW World Champion, the good guy CJ Black, and he says that his invite must have got lost when it comes to XCW. Now, is that true? Is that not true? I mean, is that
I think hotel prices keep going up, and he wants his airfare, he wants his hotel prices. He might have to be a little leaner on
tough economy,
his
huh? These days,
demands.
tough
Yeah.
economy right now, right? So okay, well, we'll have to see. Maybe then if the hotel costs come down a little bit, or maybe some of the fees come down, maybe we would see him in XCW. I guess as you continue to say never. Okay, fair enough. We'll certainly see. And obviously, he's squaring off with Jack Delta, the man that we've just seen on Encounters episode 2. So that's another match that I'm sure a lot of people will be very curious to see. We obviously hope that it'll be a great match, and we know it'll be a great match between the champion CJ Black and Jack Delta. So certainly stay tuned for that on RWW's pages. But obviously, in the remaining time that we have, I want to ask you. I've been asking people that come on the show throughout the last couple weeks. Obviously, as 2023 is coming to a close, I know we've recently announced our schedule of shows in XCW in 2024, but I wanted to ask for the audience, and especially those that will watch the replay here. But what are your goals for XCW in 2024?
Biggest thing is we have a couple of focuses this year. We really want to focus on our tag team division, and I think you see that a lot with Encounters.
Yes.
I even say that I feel like the Encounters endeavor is really based around the Foundation and the Real Ones storyline. And you're going to see more of that as Encounters unfolds over the next few months. So creating because there's a lot of companies out there that don't have enough people on the roster to fully commit to having a tag team division, and we're fortunate enough that we do. And so tag team wrestling is going to be something that I think is going to be a focus for us in 2024, and it helps having the brand of EBW where a lot of guys can come together to create more compelling tag team wrestling. So I think tag team wrestling is going to be a focus. I think we're going to dish out some surprises this year, and those surprises are going to be former returning talent to XCW. It's going to be outside
Ooh.
talent, guys like, hey, CJ Black. You never know when, where, or what happens that makes it to where he possibly pops up in XCW.
Sean Joby, another
Yeah, I
team.
mean, we even seen, think back almost a year ago when, out of nowhere, we seen the Nitro Kingdom from OMW pop up and win the
Yes.
XW Tag Team titles. So anything can happen. And so I think our big thing is being able to tell more compelling storylines through promos, more through storytelling, and then of course focusing on our tag team division, and of course just continuing to dish out surprises and keep everything as competitive and exciting as we possibly can.
No question about that. And you can do that here on so many different platforms with XCW. Get in touch, become a part of the galaxy, support this company, which has given so many people an opportunity, especially YouTube, XCW Shelbyville, XCW All Access, Instagram, XCW underscore Shelbyville, Twitter, XC Wrestling One, Facebook, XCW Shelbyville, and also xcwrestling1.wixsite.com /Shelbyville, where you can see roster information, championship, results history, shop zone, you name it,
Everything.
XCW has it. That's why XCW,
Everything.
that's why we're the gold standard. And I want to ask you, as we're coming to the end of the show, I know we've talked about it before, but the relationship that you guys have with the St. Paul's Gym, I really think this is where you guys become different than anybody else. Being in that place, and I spoke to some guys off the air that have wrestled in the St. Paul's Gym in the locker room, obviously, let's be objective. And they've raved about the ability of being in that building, being in that gym. You have to talk about how big of a deal it is once again that we're going to have further shows and a relationship in the St. Paul's Gym, because and this is another reason why XCW is the gold standard.
Our relationship with them stem from, you can't trust Indiana weather. And
I know.
you know, during, if you watch the last couple of years, even early 2023, we're performing out of a very small garage venue. We had the opportunity to do a few shows out at the Baxter YMCA early in 2023 and really venture out. And that was just so far from the homestead, from Mainstay Arena. So we were traveling 45 minutes to an hour out with all of our production stuff, all of our staging, our lighting equipment, our sound equipment. It's a lot. It's a lot. And so we wanted to, we're XCW Shelbyville, and we wanted to bring it back to kind of our home front. And with that venue only being 15-20 minutes from where the rings, where all the materials that we need to provide the shows that we do, 15-20 minutes down the road, that was the perfect foil for us to go there. And my only regret is obviously it's a bigger building. We're not packing it out the way that I wish that we were, and so sometimes it makes it seem like there's not very many people there. In all honesty, I mean, it looks like there's not a lot of people that are attending our shows, but there actually is. There's quite a few people in the stands during our events. You just can't tell because the building is so big.
I know, I know. I've heard
Yeah,
that. I've
and
heard that.
and
Yeah.
so and that's just a depth perception from what you see on TV. That's one of the only things, but I think our relationship with them has grown even stronger. We're going to be doing some community service work for them um, in the spring, and helping them out with a few things uh, as volunteers to help out with the community in St. Paul. Someone unfortunately graffitied part of the building, and we're going to help with that cleanup, and we're going to be doing some community service things with them. So I think with all of that being said, and the relationship that we have, and of course we're putting money back into that community of an even smaller portion
Absolutely.
of
Absolutely.
it's even smaller than Shelbyville. So for us to be able to give back to the community to help them out, and they're going to help us out along the way, it's a perfect foil for everything that we're doing right now.
And I think it shows before we get to closing thoughts, and we're going to say hello to the other half of the foundation who we saw in episode 1 real quickly before we get to closing thoughts. I think it shows that XCW has always been there for the people. XCW has always gone above and beyond the means. A lot of companies out there, and again, I don't want to make this about who's what and versus and against, but XCW has always been there for Shelbyville. XCW is here to have a long-term investment. And I think this is why we see such a special relationship that XCW has with the Galaxy and also with the larger community as a whole. I mean, when do you hear companies like XCW go out there and do community events like this? When do you hear things about XCW giving back to the charities, helping out in the different groups of interest? And I also want to put it out there here for as the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, your voice of wrestling, the Reverend Tom Bryce. If there's anything that we can do for the community of Shelbyville, anything I can do for the St. Paul's Church, even if it's a small donation or just something to share a post, feel free to let me know. Feel free. We're here to help. We're here to work with XCW. We're proud to be sponsors of XCW, like Kendall's Tavern. Want to give them a big shout out. Anything we can do for our people that work with us here, like XCW, which has been so generous over these past 5 or 6 months to promote us here and obviously promote our footage on their platforms. Anything we can do to help the people of Shelbyville, anything we can do to help the St. Paul's Gym and XCW, by all means, let me know. Even if it's a few dollar donation, something. You need help with something, I'm here. We're here. We're here to work with you on Sportswire. That's what it's about, because we want you to win, and we know you are going to win. That's why we want the views to go up. We want those subs to go up. And I think that also we want to see the people of the community see what XCW has to offer and support those that are certainly here for the right reasons. And that's why I continue to say that this is an endorsement that wasn't given. This was an endorsement that was earned. You said it on your platform about what I said about XCW. You even said it. Tom Bryce said endorsements are not given, they are earned. This one is earned. So anything we can do here. And also, I want to say hello to Soldier GP. Yes, I definitely want to talk Winter Clash. Probably toward the end of next week. Let's definitely recap the show. I think January 1st, you're coming on as well. So, yes, definitely get in touch with me. I'm going to message you. But, yes, I definitely want to talk about that show either the end of next week or the following week. So, yes, we can book a day on that. And before I get to closing thoughts, ask you one more question. Anything else you want to say about Soldier GP, who was there last week and also successfully retained his IMF World Heavyweight Championship?
Again, thing is like I said, they're total pros. I was so happy to have them a part of Encounters. You might even say that they stole the show.
That's what Soldier said.
I mean, that's not debatable. By some means, they definitely showed up and made a big splash in our endeavor of Encounter. So, and I thank them for being a part of that. And as for the part about the donations, of course, if people want to help with the funds, obviously, like XCW isn't a cheap show to run either. So if there is somebody out there that wants to make donations towards, you know, profiting for the building, which is ran by volunteers. If they want to help out, with our brand, we're looking at bringing in brand new XW Tag Team Championships in early 2024. I think, when you got guys like the Foundation and the real ones that are fighting over such a coveted title, the title needs upgraded. So whether it's our brand or community, reach out to myself or Jackson Law, and find out ways to help with that. Or if you want something in return, of course, xcwshopzone.threadless.com. We have all of our t-shirt designs on there. We have mugs, skateboards, a bunch of crazy things that are
I
on there
love when you
available.
guys cut back in and we show the shops. They go, not going back. I love when that show. We see that in the middle of the shows, and we see that video to cut. We see all the shirts, and we see that music. Oh man, I just get fired up about it, and I want people to support XCW. And again, we'll talk about this off the air, but if there's something I can do for the company, obviously, we're here, or for the community of Shelbyville, let's definitely talk about that off the air. And we're always here for XCW. You know how much XCW means to me. And I also want to shout out Soldier GP. And yes, we'll definitely talk about the IMF's Winter Class show sometime next week as well. So we'll talk about that off the air. I want to ask you one more question. I talk to you all day, but I want to ask you one more question before I get to closing thoughts. Is there anything else that you want to say, to people tonight that heard this the first time, B, to the galaxy, and even C, to the people here on Sportswire that have obviously supported you, have been listening to you, and obviously hearing what we talk about here on these different shows, and now have you as our fourth member of the Hall of Fame? Is there anything that you want to say in particular to those groups and what's to come? And then obviously we'll get to closing thoughts, but I turn it over to you and what you want to say to those different groups.
The outpouring of support that we've had in 2023, I think, has been above any other season that we've completed in 20 years. I think, the backyard wrestling community, the pro wrestling community, wrestling community as a whole, YouTube community, all of it has really come full circle for XCW this year. I think we've had more eyeballs on us, more interest in what we're doing this year more than any. And I'm glad that I continue to create this brand and put out the content that I'm putting out. And I'm glad that everybody's having fun on this ride with us. I'll be honest, I started this 20 years ago, wrestling on the ground with 8 guys, and it's molded into what it is in 21. And never in a million years did I think that I would be in the position that I am now, or the company be in the position that it is now. And so I can't believe the outpour, the support that we're getting. I'm totally humbled by it. So,
well, you know what? You definitely deserved it. What you did 20 years ago, I mean, you certainly had a dream. You had a vision. To me, you're basically the quintessential story of an American dream. Everybody would talk about Dusty Rhodes being the American dream, but you were the true mom and pop small business American dream. I say that all the time on Sportswire. You were one of those stories that, what makes really the fabric of this community and frankly of this country, because of what you did 20 years ago, those humble beginnings on the ground to where you moved up to the mattresses, the trampolines, getting into the sort of the garage ring, and then to where we are now into the St. Paul's gym, and to where we are now with a galaxy that's heard around the world, a following, a talent pool that has wrestlers and professional, independent, who are giving back and seeing the different content and the footage. And I think that's why, again, you have definitely earned this one. I think you have been the most emotional and the most personal member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. This one, to me, was a no-brainer. You should have been the first one inducted, but it's, RPD came on my show first more times. But obviously, you were definitely, when I had a Hall of Fame, you were my number one, actually, to be in mind. And that's why I'm very, very happy to have had you back. And I know we talked about bringing you back for a while, but I think this was the right time to recap the season, get a chance now, as we've obviously had this Hall of Fame. And I think one of the things I want to do with the Hall of Fame, before I get to a next member of the Hall of Fame who's going to be inducted on Sunday night, right before Christmas, ho, 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 Merry Christmas, is that I think we want to give out either certificates or some type of citation. So I'm working on figuring out how to do that. So I will certainly send you something, I promise you, on that. So I do want to, because Parsley was like, well, what do I get? And I'm like, well, I mean, I could think of maybe something to do. And I think a certificate or a citation might be just kind of recognizing the moment. So we're going to work on that. And obviously, I want to, so again, to the fifth member of the Hall of Fame who's going to be inducted on Christmas Eve, Mr. Joshua Allen, the owner of Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, who certainly Mr. Delta's worked for. So we're looking forward to having you inducted into the Hall of Fame Sunday. I think we're on it, 10 o'clock Eastern time. So, Mr. Allen, I definitely look forward to you there. And thank you for tuning in. And I want to
Mr. Josh Allen and I had a great conversation last night as well.
So. Oh, you did? Oh, you did. Now, should I ask him that conversation when he's inducted, or just don't ask him?
Let's just say this is one of our first real conversations that we've had the opportunity to have. and I'm sure that there's more talks to come, and I'm not going to reveal too much with that
So
either. So.
basically, in this case here, this would be a conversation that wouldn't have any issues with hotel fees or cost to book the talent in, right? What CJ Black was saying basically, where he lost his invite, and so this would be maybe a different, a more lighter tone than you would say.
Yep, stay tuned.
Okay, fair enough. Listen, fair enough. I speak no more. Obviously, Mr. Allen's going to be on Sunday. We'll certainly get his turn, and we'll have more XCW coverage here coming up here. And also, our first lady here of Sportswire Radio, Ms. Zena, wants to say she was surprised that Joshua Allen hadn't been inducted into the Hall of Fame yet. Well, you're in luck, Miss Zena, our first lady of Sportswire Radio. He's inducted Sunday night. So I'll repeat that again. He'll be the 5th member of the Hall of Fame. So definitely thank you also, Miss Zena, for tuning back in with us, our first lady. And she's very happy that you're a part of the Hall of Fame because we love XCW here also. And I think being acknowledged as a Hall of Famer is enough recognition, I think. Well, I think we're going to induct you in Omen as well on the 1st. So I think that we'll make that also a point on the show. But we'll definitely talk, I think, before that with the Winter Clash. So thank you for that, Soldier, and congratulations on a historic show. Obviously, now I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts and anything else that you want to plug, share, or say. And again, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your support of Sportswire Radio and you giving us the opportunity to cover your product and you for reaching out to me 8 months ago and setting this up. And I don't think I would have a Hall of Fame without you in it. So I now want to give you the floor. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? And the floor is yours. I can't thank you enough. And fire away.
Well, of course, I appreciate the opportunity to be inducted and all the support and the kind words that I've received on the show. As for XCW, of course, we're going to have loads of content throughout the entire winter on XCW All Access channel. From JWF, UIW, behind the scenes stuff that we've never shown, practice matches, all these things that no one has never seen a light of day is of course going to be presented on there. As for the main channel, we have Free Time Interview that's about to make a comeback to the channel here very soon. We're looking to start a new endeavor. It's called XW Inception. It's going to be a show where I have some of the newer talent sit down. They're going to watch some of the old school XCW from its inception all the way up, and they're going to give their opinions, and then basically they're going to take me to task, and I'm going to try to defend the stupid crap that we did.
Almost like wrestler's court. It's like wrestler's court almost.
Yeah. So that's coming up soon. We're going to be filming for a new sometime later season coming up very soon. We have more XW Showtime episodes that are coming down the hatch. The rest of the season of XCW 5, we still have about 4 or 5 episodes of that coming. We also have Clash on Christmas coming up on Christmas Day, which is going to feature the main event of Tommy Merriman going one-on-one with Leon Lux. As we know, Tommy won the Battle Royal on his return at Feature Fight, and now he gets to go against Leon Lux at Clash on Christmas for the international title. Then we also have New Year's Nemesis. As we know, Hayden Vex won that brutal 6-man elimination chain match. Oh, my
God, what a match that was. Oh, my
goodness. And so he gets his championship opportunity coming up at New Year's Nemesis. And then, of course, Cold Day in Hell is coming up in the 1st of February. And then we'll also have encounters from now until March. So there's a lot to look forward to. There's a lot of things coming down the hatch in regards of XCW. So.
Oh man, you know what? I'm already my blood is boiling. I'm burning. My head is just about to explode because we got so much XCW to talk about here on Sportswire Radio. In fact, this was so monumental to induct you into the Hall of Fame. I actually got invited to a well-to-do Christmas party tonight, and I actually turned it down. And they asked me, well, why don't you want to come to my party? And it was this big party, probably would have been well-to-do community people, different people that I probably, wouldn't want to be with anyway, but I'm sure I could have probably got something out of it. I said, I'm inducting the man that was the gold standard to backyard wrestling, and I would dare say to this sport altogether, and Fletch, a.k.a. Joshua Fletcher, the owner of XCW. And that's why I'm going to wish him that invited me a Merry Christmas. And that's why I'm rain checking on your holiday party, because I wanted to be here tonight, because that's how much you meant. And that's how much you mean to Sportswire Radio. In fact, to so many people that I cannot stress enough. There would really be no Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, as a matter of fact, if it wasn't for you. And that's why we cannot wait for XCW content. One more time. Encounters episode 2 just went off the air. Go to XCW Shelbyville on YouTube, Instagram, XCW_Shelbyville, Twitter, XC Wrestling 1, Facebook, XCW Shelbyville. And if you want to support XCW in any way possible, you can go to also xcwrestling1.wixsite.com/Shelbyville and get involved, support, whether it's merchandise, whether it's just supporting the movement any way possible. You make sure you support. Yep, you did. You better. And Kurt Acid especially. You can get your Kurt Acid shirt, your ACT shirt, your Jackson Law shirt, Corey Lee, EBW if you want that. You got the First Real Justin Parsley shirt. You got Fletch merchandise. You might be able to get some Jacoby merchandise. Anybody your heart desires, James Cerebral, whoever it might be. Listen, Julian Voy Jacobs, Eric Mason. I mean, listen, Hunter Halkin, Brogan O'Shea, Jay Ellis. I mean, there's so many people that you could think of. Mitchell Maverick. I mean, there's literally everybody on this roster. If you want, buy every shirt on the roster out there. And that's a way you can really support XCW altogether. So just get out there, support this company. I cannot stress it here enough. My friend, I want to congratulate you on being the 4th member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. This one was definitely not given. As I always say, this was earned, and it was earned the minute you spoke to me and messaged me for the first time on Facebook. I can't wait to bring you back in 2024. We're going to certainly see what happens at the Peep Show on January 1st. By the way, New Year's Nemesis, the return of that. We're going to see what happens between you and Miano Diaz. Could be another brouhaha. Stay tuned for that. Also, we've got New Year's Nemesis. More shows on that for coverage. Stay tuned later week on the XCW social media pages. We've got Christmas Clash and Christmas. We've also got Cold Day in Hell in early February. We're going to have a heck of a lot more coverage and all that. Thank you for everything that you've done for me. And this sport, frankly, is, again, one more time, you had a vision to change Shelbyville Backyard Wrestling. No, you did that. Midwest Backyard Wrestling, you did that. Frankly, you changed the entire sport of wrestling as you know it 20 years ago. Thank you so much for everything. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year's. Can't wait to watch episode 2 of Encounters and also all the other stuff we have out in the future to look forward to. And thank you so much for everything that you've done for us, and I can't wait for more.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the 4th member officially now of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, the owner and founder of XCW, Fletch Joshua Fletcher, who is here to talk all things related to XCW, get you ready for Encounters Episode 2, also for Clash on Christmas Day coming up Monday, New Year's Day, also New Year's Nemesis, where the return of the Peep Show will feature Fletch and Miano Diaz. Cold Day in Hell is in the first week of February. Stay tuned to all XCW platforms for more details and information. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station. I'll be back here tomorrow night, or tomorrow morning, you might say, midnight, with Neff of Resurrection Pro Wrestling. I'll also be here with Mac 10, renowned independent deathmatch wrestler who is in the Carnage Cup. He'll be here to talk about that, and some Saturday night, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, and Sunday night to be inducted as the 5th member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, owner and founder of Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, Joshua Allen. Until then, please support XCW on all platforms out there, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, on the #1 global radio station that is Sportswire